How about we do it all together?
No, God, in unison. Should we harmonize it?
Does it? Yes. And this is Variety.
Ready?
No.
And this is Varieties. You just went silent, Ed Norton. What's with you? Hi, this is James Mangold, writer-director of A Complete Unknown.
I'm Timothée Chalamet, and I play Bob Dylan.
Hi, I'm Monica Barbaro, and I play Joan Baez. And this is Varieties Making a Scene.
That was great.
Yeah, but we were snickering.
No, it ain't me, babe. It ain't me you're looking for, babe.
Not that we were going for an academic recreation, but the original video of Bob and Joan doing this song in Newport, it is super informative. You know, they're really having a laugh. Seems like they have a secret or something. That was very informative, you know.
I didn't want Monica to be like the girl singing with Bob. And I felt like there was a level, but it took us, we had to figure out how you could get close. I also wanted them close, and we kind of, I remember, was this the scene where we're trying to figure out how you could kind of...
All kinds of back and forth, or like...
But Joan, in other concerts I'd seen, had this way of kind of bringing the neck up vertical, like she was playing, wasn't that?
Yeah.
Like a harp or something. It was a conscious decision to not just turn Monica into kind of the pips that she'd be kind of driving in. And that was about partly what the scene was about, that she had chosen the song, she was starting to play the song, he was either going to get on the train or not, and there's a kind of connectivity dramatically to a previous concert where he wouldn't play the song she chose. And this one, she's kind of diving in with me or without me. So there's also a kind of interesting dialogue going on between them about shit that's already gone down in the past.
I picked something appropriate.
Appropriate?
Just fuck off and sing.
The song we play in that moment in the story of the film is like very on the nose, but I appreciate like that's intentional, and that she's like, yeah, I picked something appropriate, just fuck off and sing. And what I love too is like you watch a lot of footage of Joan being like very intentional and put together about her answers, and yet, you know, when you learn about her, she is a person who would say something like fuck off and sing, but she wasn't doing that sort of like publicly so much. So I like that we have the lens sort of behind the scenes of her flipping him off and saying fuck off, and you know, the audience doesn't necessarily get that until decades later when she talks about the way she was, but we just kind of peek at that little bit of bite.
Just fuck off and sing.
Well, I love the rapport between Timmy and Monica, and more specifically Bob and Joan, is she's formidable. Everyone at this point in the story is kind of dancing on eggshells around Bob, and that's not Joan's posture. And so it adds a kind of degree of difficulty for Bob that's fun to watch, because he's dealing with someone who's not going to take a certain level of shit and may even be giving it back a little bit.
In terms of the music, I mean, it was important to all of us to not have a bunch of sort of carbon copies of these musicians or any sort of sign of mimicry in the film, and yet they have to be recognizable versions of these musicians. This is such a music-oriented scene. I mean, the main thing for me with Joan was working on having a certain level of vibrato and a certain quality of tone, and to learn to play guitar in sort of a similar way to the way
her finger
she
picking
did.
style.
Yeah, her finger picking, which that song, It Ain't Me, Babe, is not as much of that. And actually at a certain point I got better at finger picking, and the strumming was actually really like hard for me. Just having those sort of like touch points of the person so that there is that recognizability there. But then, you know, once you get into it, you hope you're in it so deeply that you can just sort of have a version of the person.
You say you're looking for someone, never weak, but always strong.
I just love that song, and I feel like Jim gave us the runway to play them out as the characters we were in the movie. I really do believe this is a Jim interview, because I was in Bob world, for lack of a better description. Monica was in Joan world. But kudos to Jim, who really had his eye the whole movie on the fact that to watch actors do karaoke really isn't interesting. And it's really about, that's why I feel like Elle Fanning should be here right now, because
she's the anchor point.
She's
of the
the anchor
scene.
point of the scene, you know, and Jim always had his eye on story coming first, and it really is a great scene to break down in that regard. I know we shouldn't pat ourselves on the back or pat you on the back in front of you.
I don't mind.
It should be behind closed doors.
I'm not the one you want, babe. I'm not the one you need.
We had background artists that were fully engaged. I had a wonderful dance partner with Monica, and then we were able to play. I'm sure the version you see in the movies, I'm guessing different than the 6 or 7 other versions we did.
Yeah, we were dozens of versions.
We did, I think, perform that one least of all other performances,
Oh, yeah,
though,
'cause
because
we
I
had
had
one.
to
You had to
run.
leave.
Yeah.
I was like throwing off my guitar and like the hair, and I had to get on a plane to shoot another project at the same time. And so that, of all things, was actually the thing we shot
The least footage of. But the
Which
thing
is-
is also is the reason they're always singing live is honestly because they're breathing. They have to be, meaning they have to be moving oxygen through it's like you can't be doing that. You have to actually do it, or else it just is a fraud. But honestly, that was at a point where they had both gotten in a pretty good groove. There's a lot of choices to make in how you shoot a scene and how you move your actors through that space, and there's a journey of focus that kind of starts with optimism and Bob heading out on the stage and joining Joan. What's always fascinated me, Timmy's done stage work and may know this, and I think the actors know this for a fact anyway, but is this kind of weird contradiction you feel on stage in terms of you're in front of so many thousands of people sometimes, and yet the intimacy you feel with the people who you're on stage with. I don't mean just the intimacy of playing a character, but the sense of intimacy as actors, or that you're really, it's you and them. And there may be all these eyeballs on you, but there's a kind of focused connection that you have that's kind of intense. That's why the camera in the scene lives, not shooting so much what the audience would see. For instance, the kind of row one kind of hero shot of your actors as it would have been if you were in the audience, but it lives in this world really using the anamorphic frame to kind of really almost make this beautiful, beautiful composition from either side of Timmy and Monica kind of together, and the connection, that mic forcing them to be at this shared distance, all of which kind of brings on other aspects of kind of intimacy, romance, sexuality. All of that is going on as they're singing a song about not needing each other. And they've entered the song almost in the midst of a kind of grudge, at least from Joan's point of view, offering him the finger at the moment he's coming on stage. And to see that the second the song begins, these two lovers and friends, and also in a sense competitors sometimes, land in the scene and instantly fall in. All the bullshit of real life or life problems drops away, and the song carries them to this magical place where they're like kind of this perfect couple. Their voices, their connection to each other, those shots holding the two of them with the audience in the background, you can see the thousands of people behind them, but they've also vanished because you're really focused on this kind of connection between these two, which is of course what then drives the second movement of the scene, which is how destabilizing it is for someone who loves Timmy's character and is on the outside and cannot play a song and cannot, in a way, ever have that kind of connection with him.
Someone to open each and every door. It ain't me, babe.
Some of the crowd is digitally created in the distance, but you still had about 200 extras, and I've got Monica leaving in 2 hours, and so we're doing what we can with multiple cameras. But you still, the way I shoot, there's only so much you can do because I don't use long lenses where you can kind of aim a battery of cameras. The proxemics of the lens to the actors is really close. You try and do that also because every take is a little different, and if you roll more than one camera at the same time, you always have one other shot that you know is going to match. So it gives you one option out, because I love that they're finding new things. But there's sometimes when you do find one where you love the choices they made and they never made any choice like that in another take, you can be trapped. So those are the advantages of multiple cameras. But we did do it a lot of times.
What makes, Bob and Joan, the characters in that period, and hopefully what Monica and I were able to bring to it, beyond what a, hair rock concert would be where it's playing to 80,000 people or something. This is really about two characters sharing something.
And I think that idea of the secret is really what I needed to drive the scene, because ultimately I've got to get it to where Elle is driven away by whatever she's seeing on stage. And nothing is really more destabilizing for a lover than to watch your partner having a kind of secret with another.
It ain't me you're looking